Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm State Senator Susan Rubio. I represent the 22nd Senate District in the San Gabriel Valley. Today, I'm really excited to have this town hall discussion, in particular because it focuses on our youth and everything that our students have been going through during the pandemic. But I would like to say thank you to the students that are here with me today. They're here from Temple City, and I'm just always encouraged when I see our youth participating and trying to be civic minded and engaged. So thank you. I was an educator for 17 years. And so this is something that I know well. We're going to be talking about mental health issues, especially as it pertains to the last year and some of the struggles that our youth has been experiencing. I do have, once again, our students here. And I happen to have, I'm a member of the Senate Mental Health Select Committee in the California legislature, which means we sit down and have conversations about what we need just in general for California, what we need for the elderly community and our youth. Everyone needs something different at different times. So we're really focused on trying to ensure that there's resources, and some of the policies that we put forward are really going to bring relief to some of those that really need it. There's some legislation going through right now. I am a co-author of a bill currently going through the legislature that will allow family members to try and help those that are too mentally ill to recognize that they need help. And I also have another bill that's going to be able to encourage health plans to cover mental health illnesses, which is something that, again, it's not always recognized, it's not always covered. And so hopefully we can bring some relief in that regard. Currently, we're going through some of the budget discussions. It's not enough to have legislation. We do need to make sure that funding is set aside to make sure that we can provide support to the underserved communities and those with low income means. So thank you again for being here. I have a few guests. So this afternoon, I just look forward to hearing from our this year's project from Temple City Youth Committee. You can all wave. They're all here with me, and I'm so proud to be here with you. I also have very distinguished guest, Dr. Glenn Masuda from he's a clinical psychologist and an associate director of the Pacific Clinic's Asian Pacific Family Center. And I'm honored to be here with him. When I was teaching in Monrovia Unified School District, I know that I personally would refer families over, and they were so helpful to our school community. So thank you for the work that you do. I will turn it over to Dr. Masuda. If you can please introduce yourself, let us know what your role is in the clinic. Thank you.
Thank you. My role currently is I'm the Associate Divisional Director, which means I'm a full-time administrator. But for many, many years, when I first started back in '86, I spent most of my time going out into the elementary, junior high, and high schools doing outreach and engagement as an adolescent psychologist, because we didn't have anybody coming in until everything got too late. And so our first thought was we need to get there sooner. So it's been many years since I was in the schools, but we are still doing the same types of work. And I'm very, very pleased to be here. Thank you again, Senator, for your support, not just now, but as a teacher back in the day, helping students get the services and the families getting the services they need. So thank you again. And to you on the panel, I'm impressed already. You've been talking about some really amazing things and projects. So I'm looking forward to what you have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's always good to see you. And please continue the work. Clearly, our communities need you and everyone in that field. So really appreciate it. Now I'm going to take a moment to have all our students introduce themselves. I will start with Sydney. Leo, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Sydney Leo. I'm a 12th grader at Temple City High School, and this is my second and final year in the youth committee.
Thank you for being here. Now we'll turn it over to Catherine.
Hello, my name is Catherine Chen, and I'm a senior at Temple City High School. This is also my second year in the committee.
Now we're going to go over to Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Clark, and I am a senior at Temple City High School. This is also my second term in youth committee.
Thank you. Now we'll have Tuan introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Tuan Nguyen and I am a senior at Temple City High School, and this is also my second year on the Temple City Youth Committee.
Thank you. Lauren, your turn.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren and I'm a current sophomore at Temple City High School, and this is also my second year in the Youth Committee.
And last but not least, Chase.
Hello, my name is Chase Dodge. I'm a junior at Temple City High School, and this is my third year with the Youth Committee.
Well, thank you all of you for being here. I'm already extremely impressed, as Dr. Glenn Masuda stated. This is, our youth sometimes struggle with participating and being part of their community and coming up with solutions. And I know that you have so much to share. So I want to ask a couple of questions, and hopefully all of you listening out there can learn from our youth and what they're doing to help in their community. So I'm going to start with Tuan. I have a question for you. So can you please share, what is the project you were working on this year?
Definitely. So this year, our project was focused around mental health, which was an objective that we chose around the beginning of the academic year, so back in the fall. And in regards to mental health, our project really encompassed two main parts. The first part was gauging our community's youth mental health. And the second part was using that information to improve the current resources that our community offered. And so to accomplish the first part, which was to gauge our community's mental health, we sent out two big surveys to youth in our city. The first survey was sent out to our high school and our middle school, and that survey received 920 responses. And after gaining permission from the district and cooperating with district officials, we sent out a second survey that received 71 responses from our elementary schools, which was a targeted audience that we had not really interacted with before. And so we wanted to make sure we had their representation as well. And these surveys helped us understand the types of difficulties that every student was struggling with, whether it was a high school student or an elementary school student. And this made our work on the committee feel all the more real and all the more relevant to our community. And I'll turn it over to Sydney to talk about what we did with the surveys.
All right, so thanks to the insight we received from our surveys, we were actually able to reach back into our community and achieve our second focus for the year, which was improving existing resources. Our high school's counseling department offers SEL, so social emotional learning lessons every Friday. But we found out that some of the students were feeling disconnected and isolated. So using our survey results, we were able to incorporate our students' wants into our SEL lessons, and we cover topics such as art, music, games, and meditation in order to combat the isolation that comes with quarantine. Our lessons were designed to help students feel more connected with others socially, because we felt our peers would benefit more from having social activities rather than answering just questions about mental health in general.
Well, thank you for that. Again, I continue to be impressed not only with the work you're doing, but just how well spoken you are. So thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it over now to Emily. Emily, I have a question for you. Can you share, I know that you worked on this project, but can you share how you decided to focus on mental health as a focus?
Yes. So the reason the committee had selected mental health for the initiative this year was because we understood how much the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the emotional lives of individuals, especially our youth within the community. And we wanted to help in any way that we could. From personal experience as a committee, we know how detrimental stress and isolation is to mental well-being, which is why we felt so motivated to initiate action regarding this vital topic.
Thank you for that. And I know that we're talking about youth in general, but I know that adults also feel a little bit of the isolation and everything that you have discovered through this project. Thank you for that. I will now turn it over to Catherine. Catherine, I have a question for you. Can you share a little bit more in detail the findings from your survey?
Yeah, of course. So our surveys, the questions for both of them were very similar. So the first part we asked was just to gauge how well our targeted respondents knew about the resources available to them in their own cities and how well they thought their city was doing to actively help or aid mental health. So only about 10% we found were familiar with the resources, which could mean there was a lack of promotion, which in this situation may be that a large number of residents don't interact with their social medias or the city or county's websites, or the topic itself has not been addressed to the point where people feel the need to seek out resources to familiarize themselves with. So combined, only about a fourth of the responses indicated that the people felt that their city plays a role that they needed to in aiding its residents with mental health. Following that, we asked the respondents to check off some things that might be a cause of stress to them. And because almost all of the respondents were students, schoolwork was a major stressor, which comes as no surprise. Quarantine as well was a big factor due to the lack of physical and social interaction that we have. But quite a few also put answers such as local events, elections, or littering as a factor of stress that they also found. We also asked if the city were to offer any kind of programs, what kind of events would they like to see? And a lot of people indicated that some type of entertainment or creative event workshops or some sort would increase their social interaction and help boost, just the enjoyment, or like to help recover during this time. And another question we asked was how they cope with stress, and many said a distraction or entertainment of some sorts. Others said creative outlets were a way for them to relax, and we use this as our foundation to formulate around our Zoom workshops that Sydney discussed earlier.
Thank you for that. Well, something that really strikes me when you said that only 10% of the surveyed said that they knew about city resources. And I think we have to do a better job as leaders of making sure that people have the resources they need at their fingertips. So thank you for sharing. And you also talked about just this pandemic causing people to be a little bit more creative and needing that entertainment. But I also know a few adults that took up painting, art, music. And I think that a lot of us were trying to find that creative space and do things that were outside our comfort zone. So really thank you for focusing on specific areas and just encouraging people to talk. Sometimes talking about it makes things better. So really appreciate that. I'm going to turn over a question to Lauren. Lauren, can you help me understand how did you decide what positive messaging looked like?
Yes, of course. So the youth committee spent lots of time trying to figure out an authentic way we could help our community with mental health through positive messaging. We filtered through many ideas and ways we could execute this. Ultimately, we decided that since we have the privilege to easily access the digital billboard on one of our busiest streets in our city, that displaying our message there would be the best solution. From that point, we decided on 3 main categories for us to focus these messages on. They are resilience, growth, and support. The youth committee wrote many quotes that we thought would best fit under these 3 categories and selected the 7 most positive and influential. We each took a quote and designed a billboard graphic that correlated with our quote. So for example, I did the one that we had in January, and it's Let's Bloom Together TC. And I designed a picture of a full bloom camellia, which is our city flower. And with this, we hope to be able to use these positive messages and that we'd be able to reach our community in a safe and positive way.
Wow, that's impressive. Let's bloom together. I really like that. See, even I'm sure that you are more creative than you actually gave yourself credit for. I have a lot of my students who have actually taken up something that they left in the past. They used to paint, they put it aside, and now they are rediscovering their creativity. So I'm glad that this project gave you and the entire team the ability to really explore that creative side. So thank you. I wanted to now turn it over to the students to ask myself and Mr. Masuda any questions you want to know. I want this to be an interactive conversation. So is there any questions you may have for us?
Yes, I actually had a question to start with. Yeah, so just to give a little background, me and Sydney and Catherine were all part of our school's Junior State of America chapter. And so we're kind of involved with getting to know local politics as well as state level politics. And so when you mentioned that there were bills and policies in the California legislature related to mental health, the first question that came to mind was, how can we as students sort of have an impact on getting those bills passed, whether it's through testimonials or other methods?
Well, thank you for that question. One of my struggles is that I see the disconnect between what happens in the district and here. I'm in Sacramento currently, here in the state capitol, and we can always use an extra set of hands and your voices to encourage the passage of legislation. So what I always tell my students and just, my constituents in general, that, participation is so important. It is really critical that in order to help us, it's important that you take the time to educate yourselves on those issues that really matter to you. I know right now we're talking about mental health, but there's other issues that are important to others. I hear about bills in education. Sometimes I hear about, just funding for programs that went away. So whatever the issue is, I always encourage everyone listening to really delve deep and learn the issues well. And then focus on what are the legislation that's going through the process right now. What I do often is I reach out to my local cities and see if there's any interest in sending a letter of support or getting their feedback on policy. So as it pertains to students, I would encourage you to take an active role and reach out to my office or the assembly member's office or congresswoman and see how you can help. There's always a need for your voice, our youth, because sometimes, like I said, it's a little bit of a disconnect when we spend so much time in Sacramento and we go back every single week, we go back home, but our voices down there, you are important because we need to know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what programs you want to see. And at any given time, if you do research and you see policies that you are passionate about, there are several ways you can really help. Number one is call your legislator, whether that's myself or someone else. Write a letter either in support or in opposition. People don't know that actually gets recorded when we present bills. We have to present our bills, and the committees give the opportunity for people that either oppose or support to speak out. That means you can actually come here in person and speak up. That's allowed. During the pandemic, we've been taking phone calls only, so it even makes it easier for you to participate. So you can call in and say why you support it or why you oppose it. But leading up to the committee, we definitely would encourage you to have a written letter of support and oppose. And it gets recorded for forever and ever. It's in the book. So that's how you can help. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for your response. I really appreciate it.
Okay, is there a question for Dr. Masuda?
I have a question for Dr. Masuda. So if someone doesn't feel comfortable with reaching out to someone about their own mental health issues, what can they do? And what if it gets too overbearing, yet speaking to someone would make it worse?
Thanks for the easy question. The reason why that question is difficult, it's sort of like, okay, now that the fire has started, what's the best way to put something out? And it's challenging when something gets into the crisis level. And so part of the conversation really has to get into, did we do anything ahead of time? Did you have the fire extinguisher there? Did you try to prevent things from happening, et cetera? Was there a lot of permission given? And then the first thing I thought of when you heard the question is, do we really have an environment of permission to speak freely and openly? Do we give the permission? I like hearing about the efforts you've put into giving that permission, whether it's the electronic digital billboard or the flyers or even the one-on-one conversations that you have with your friends. It's like when something happens, do people have the freedom and sometimes even the courage and ability to say, no, go ahead. I think I mentioned in other presentations that it's funny how if somebody breaks a leg, the immediate reaction is, oh, okay, we got to rush down to the hospital and get that taken care of, put it in a cast so you can recover. But if somebody's really suffering from depression, anxiety, fears, phobia, anything of that nature, we don't seem to rush to that same place of, oh, okay, cool, here's what you do. We don't seem to have that same mindset for behavioral health care as we do physical health care. And for me, it's always been about, do we really give people permission to be where they're at and be honest with each other? Or do we have an environment where people are frightened to acknowledge or admit to having a weakness or a bad day, or I don't want to be singled out, or I'm going to be targeted or anything of that nature. So to kind of go back to the original part of it, when it gets too overbearing, yet speaking to someone who would make it worse, that's somebody who's already right on the edge of a crisis. And I really think we needed to be there for them beforehand. When somebody's in a crisis, then do you have backup? Do you have someone else you can get to? A question I've often asked students when they're in tough situations, or even in the early stages, I said, if you were in trouble, you needed help, you needed assistance, who would you go to? And if the answer is one of three, the first answer is, oh, well, I could go to my mom, my dad. Oh my God, dad will kill me, or I can go to a minister, I can go to a teacher. So this is one of the ways I assess that this person has enough resources and contact people to get to. If this individual only says, well, I'll talk to somebody my own age and maybe they can help me, that's better than nothing, but it gets to be real limited in terms of experience and knowledge, and they may have the same, trepidations about getting help or asking for help. The one answer that scares me the most is when I ask it and they say, nobody. Nope, I don't go to anybody. Not gonna happen. That's the one I worry about the most, because they're already in so many places of risk in terms of not thinking they have choices, not thinking or feeling that they can try anybody or even something. And it can be for all kinds of different reasons, but that's the concern. So again, before we get to that place of after the fact, it's so many of the things you're doing already, and I'll talk about that more if you ask me those questions, of some of the things that you're just doing on your own in terms of your leadership functions actually goes a long ways to giving that same kind of permission and safety for people to ask for help.
Well, thank you for that. That was very profound. And, definitely encourage anyone that is struggling to reach out and talk to someone. But again, I want to make sure this is a little bit more interactive. And so I want to go back to asking a question to one of the students. If you can, and this question is for Chase. Chase, can you give me a sense of anything that surprised you during this project, anything that you guys would do differently or something that you would reconsider as you started doing this survey and getting the information?
Sure. We weren't necessarily surprised in a way that would make us change how we approached it, because I would say that as a committee, we were very well prepared and very well researched. But in terms of happy surprises, we were super surprised to receive upwards of 920 responses on the first survey. And we definitely didn't expect this many people to participate. And it kind of affirmed our own, it made us more motivated to continue with the project. And it made us believe that the effort on the mental health focus wouldn't be wasted, and that we would actually have a chance to help people.
Wow. Well, we often hear that phrase, right? Knowledge is power. So I guess, people wanting to respond to these surveys really did help inform how you move forward. And I'm really, encouraged by what you're saying, that people were, responding. That one of the hardest things, I think, as a leader, I used to be a council member in the city of Baldwin Park, and in trying to analyze what was needed in our community, we also attempted to send out surveys, at times, and sometimes it makes it difficult when you don't have the information that you need, and people are hesitant to fill out the survey. So I'm really glad you managed to get people to answer, and that was important, so you can frame the work that you were doing. So thank you for sharing, Chase. Now I'll turn it over to you, the students. Any other questions that you have?
I have a question.
Sure.
That goes out to anyone, and it is, how can we make existing resources more accessible?
Dr. Masuda, do you want to answer that, or you want me to take that?
You can go ahead first.
Well, again, sometimes, and I think we heard it earlier about the 10% knowledge about the resources that are out there. How do we make resources more accessible and available? And that is, number one, making sure that people know where to get this information. I think what's happening in current years, in the last few years, is that we've been transitioning into technology a lot of the times. And what we learned during this pandemic was that a lot of our seniors don't necessarily are comfortable getting their information through websites and text messages or phones. And so, we, as a city, as a state, as a legislature, we needed to do something to ensure that folks do have the information that they need. And in order to get these resources, what we have engaged in a lot through my office is making sure that we're consistently sending out messages, letters, and reaching out to folks personally to make sure that they know what's out there. As it pertains to more resources, we need more funding for those resources. So as a legislative body, we often sit down and have discussions as to how do we make sure that the most vulnerable community members are able to not only know what these resources are. Sometimes we have grants funding that's available, but they don't know how to go about getting those grants and resources. So we try to make sure that the information is out there, and also making sure that we engage people like yourselves, our youth, to help, with your parents or your grandparents. That's not always easy to seek out the information. So we really do try to make sure that it's how we put the information out there, make sure that there's funding for those resources that are needed. And we often have a lot of community clinics, community resource fairs. We've had like immigration resource fairs. Anything that we know our communities need is going right into the community, making sure that we speak directly to them. So, Dr. Masuda, anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you. Gave me a chance to think. The thing that's ironic is connectedness is something that is so misunderstood and so poorly engaged in. I know that when I've talked to consumers or clients who are been struggling with hunkering down during the pandemic, I'm horrified to find out that you're all together, you're within each other's reach, and you can talk and communicate, and they're still texting each other in the house or in the apartment. I thought, what in the heck is going on here? And it's a pseudo connectedness. And I'm so glad to hear that students are saying this is not the right way to do it, because they're the ones who are the best consumers of that information, and they're just overwhelmed by trying to vet all the amazing amount of things that are out there. And it's overwhelming. And how do you know? And what works. And the interesting irony is the connectedness in terms of just word of mouth sometimes is incredibly powerful. Being at an agency that serves primarily non-English speaking or monolingual, limited English speaking folks in Asian languages, on the one hand, we've been there 35 years. On the other hand, we still get people walking in and saying, I never heard of you. I never heard of places like this. You actually do this kind of stuff here. Or their perception is, oh, I guess you deal with really, really crazy, mentally ill, mentally retarded, et cetera. No, and don't understand that there's so much more that we can do, from just parenting classes, education, presentations, trainings. We do these things, but no one hears about this except for major crises. The word of mouth is still the single most powerful way people even come to our agency. I have a lot of the students I used to work with that would come in, knock on the door, and say, I want to see the guy with the mustache, because somebody else had seen me on campus and they had talked to me and said, who's that guy? And I'll explain. And they'll even ask the question. There have been times when I've had to be on a campus for a major tragedy and trying to reach out to the students. And the interesting thing is, the students were really good at supporting each other in the crisis. And I was so impressed by that. And the primary questions I used to get was, so what's it like being in the profession? Because they were interested but had no contact with anyone else in that profession. And so even something as simple as career days in your schools, do you have a representative that talks about the field and what we do and what we can do? So in all aspects, resources are all over the place, and sometimes you don't see it coming until you kind of stumble on something that says, oh my God, you're teaching leadership skills, yet you talk about relationships, you're talking about preparation for college interviews, and yet we talk about engagement skills. So it's all over the place, but we often take it for granted.
Thank you for that. But I also want to talk about something that I think, it happened to me personally. So I just want to make sure there's someone out there sort of experiencing the same thing. I want to talk about just normalizing a conversation about needing help, needing resources, because I think that's the first step to, when you talk about making resources accessible, first we need to recognize we need those resources. I come from a Latino family, and I'm sure culturally there's other people that have the same upbringing. You know, mental health was not something that you discussed very freely, often, or even heard of. And I know that there was a stigma in terms of needing those resources. If someone needed, you know, therapy, counseling, sometimes it wasn't, I guess we weren't given permission to really express, you know, how we were feeling, feelings of anxiety. Not personally for myself, I wasn't depressed, but I knew family members that were. And so first and foremost, I think we need to take a step forward to understand that needing help is okay. Feeling frustrated, anxiety, anything that you're internally struggling with, it's okay. And it's okay to ask for help. And so I want to encourage anyone listening up there that it happens in the Latino community, but it also happens in other families where we're not given permission to say we need help, or it's okay to go get a counselor or a therapist. And so it's just recognizing that it's okay. It's recognizing that it happens to everyone. In particular, when we talk about what's going on during the pandemic, and I think Dr. Masuda said it best, like there's a disconnect. Even when you are together, sometimes, and I do see our youth, they're not together. Everyone's so focused on technology and hiding themselves away. They're on, you know, watching TV or playing a video game. And it's hard. We're so used to this technology that has become sort of a way of life. But to the doctor's point, I have been out to dinner when I see an entire family sitting down at a table and everyone has a phone and they're all staring at the phone instead of having conversations with each other. And that limits the opportunity for parents to talk to their children or for children to talk to their parents and really understand, you know, what's going on in their everyday lives and is there any challenges. And so to parents out there, encourage your children to have conversations with you about how your day went, and for students to be able to share with parents what's going on. I used to ask my students questions and they used to say yes, no. And I used to always encourage a complete sentence to begin with, because we're so used to when we ask our youth questions, sometimes they'll say, it's fine, it's okay. And so again, it's just as parents trying to probe a little further. Sometimes our youth has a harder time expressing themselves, and just probing, making sure that they're comfortable sharing what's going on. And for all of you youth out there, knowing that there's adults that really care for you and they're looking out for your best interest. But if there's any issue that you're dealing with, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to express it. And people are just here to help. So thank you for listening on that. But I'm going to just turn it over back to our students. Any other questions you may have for the doctor or myself?
Yes, I have a question. I just wanted to first thank you for those amazing responses. They were so deep and thorough. I wanted to thank you for really responding to it well. So my question, my open question for the both of you is, as the representatives of the youth in our community, what do you think how can we do our part to help mental health issues decrease?
Wow. You opened up the door on that one. Really good, really good. It's ironic that we're back to the permission to speak freely. You know, it's not really putting out there. The senator addressed it very, very nicely in terms of the things that happen within the families, but some things for youth to think about. Being strong is good, but not being too stubborn about it. I think it can backfire. Did we give permission to ask for help, assistance, and advice? Do we do that in our day-to-day life with colleagues and friends and family? Do we unintentionally stigmatize by the things that we say? You're crazy, you're mental, what's wrong with you? You're loopy, etc. You know, we need to challenge the stereotypes of vulnerable populations in the media. You know, the young people are also the ones who can get up there and in social media saying, that sucks. Why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? Why are you perpetuating the stereotype of people who are vulnerable? And they will listen in your numbers. It's interesting for me because when people have said right now there's a lot of anti-Asian violence going on there, and they're saying, oh, you got to do this hollaback training and do bystander training. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's really good, but you know, we've been talking about that from the standpoint of anti-bullying for decades. And if we understand that bullying behavior really comes from an inability to tolerate people who are different from you, then we're back to, oh, we never really did talk about diversity issues, did we? And then I think finally, in terms of what can youth do, is there is such a thing as youth mental health first aid training that you may also want to look into. Again, that way you feel like you have the resources to help, but also know when you need to get help and assist in the best possible way and in a safe way. Because sometimes people are afraid to engage people who are having a mental health crisis. And maybe you shouldn't be the one to just jump into everything, but having the backup and the training. And part of that training is, where are my backup resource people that I need to have on hand and ready to go? So yeah, sorry, that's a great question. Thank you.
Any other questions you want to ask? Go ahead, Sydney.
All right, thank you. I'd like to thank you guys again for having such thorough answers to our previous questions. And I've noticed the conversation again keeps going back to the permission to speak and being able to connect with people, especially during the pandemic. And so the committee does have a question that is related to that. Do you know someone close to you that has experienced mental health issues, particularly during quarantine, since it is a very difficult time for everyone?
Well, generally, I think we've all struggled with this pandemic. And sometimes I think if you haven't had any issues in the past, it's even harder to recognize if something's happening. And so I'll just share for myself, as much as I was not recognizing some of the signs. I felt like I was a little depressed at the very beginning because in what I do, I've always been a public servant. So I've always been a teacher. Think of me in a classroom with, 30 students, a lot of fun, a lot of conversations. On a day-to-day, I'm always out in the community, meeting constituents, talking to people, solving issues. So I thrive on really being out in the community around a lot of people. So it really did take me a little while. I would say the first 3 months, I was a little anxious, a little, just trying to figure things out. I think all of us went through a time where we were really scared. And I want to speak freely about how I was feeling because, again, we want to go back to the permission to speak. None of us are perfect. And these are issues that I think collectively as a society, the entire world was feeling. I was feeling very anxious because, again, I'm so used to being out there solving problems. And as much as I wanted to, there was a lot of rules that we had to adhere by. The Senate legislature did not allow us to be out there providing services. I did quite a bit, but with limitations. And on top of the fear of the pandemic, the unknown, not knowing if I would get it, my family members would get it, worried about my elderly parents. My father is 80, my mother's 75. It was consistently on my mind, are they going to get sick? So on top of that, the fact that I'm not used to being in isolation, as I shared with you, my world is always around people. And then the bigger piece was so many of our residents, so many of our families calling for help, whether it was the need for food, the need for housing, people were being unemployed. I did a lot of community events where we were passing out diapers. Early on in the pandemic, everyone started taking the wipes and the disinfectant. So some of the families that had younger babies didn't have wipes. And so we really had to step up in a big way, but still having our own anxieties. So when you say, do you know anyone? I want to talk about me only because I really want everyone to understand, our youth to understand that even adults go through some challenging times, not just, students who are not used to life per se. Again, with all the isolation that we were experiencing, on top of the fear that I had over my elderly parents getting sick or myself, because what people don't know is that our work didn't stop. We were isolated in terms that we weren't allowed to be around people, but we still had to consistently travel back and forth from Sacramento to our district. So we never stopped flying. We never stopped working. The work continued. And on top of that, just listening to the distress of our residents, listening to how scared they were, asking for food, all that was a heavy load for even someone like myself that's used to being in public service, hearing their stories, hearing their cries, hearing their need for resources, all that really I internalized in a way that I never had before. So it was a little heavy on me. So I, did talk to someone. I needed to make sure that I was okay, but I was. It's just, I think, like I said, collectively, all of us were struggling a little bit. And now that we're, I would say, coming out of it and things are getting back to normal, all those feelings that I had are gone. But it was recognizing that I needed to take a step back. I'm not used to slowing down. I just keep going and going, trying to help everyone. I represent 1 million people. That's really a heavy load when you know that everyone was struggling with, food insecurity and just struggling with everything that came with that pandemic. So I really did have to take a moment and take a step back, recognize that it was a heavy load on my person. And, I was able to really get out of whatever I was feeling for a few months. So I wanted to say that because, again, it is okay to feel not normal for a bit, to feel a little bit anxious, and for anyone out there, it's okay to say to yourself, I think I need help. And that's always the hardest part. So thank you for asking that question. I'll turn it over to Dr. Masuda if he has anything to share or add to this.
Yeah. I kind of went in that same direction that when things started going downhill fast, and I think some of you will relate to this, is I went into a hyper-functional state. Doing things, changing things, working on things, working, and not focusing on anything other than got to get things done. And my wife finally said to me, "Stop." Okay. Did you sleep today? I said, "Yeah, I did. No, did you sleep?" And having someone who knows you and cares about you and loves you say, "This is not normal. You need to rest." And when she finally pointed out to me that in the past pandemic year, I hadn't taken a single day off, she said, "You're nuts." And she can say that to me because she's my wife, but she's saying basically, you need to listen to your own advice. And that's what she meant by nuts. You're being stupid. You're not listening yourself. And finally I said, okay. And stop and think, okay, I better take care of myself too. And thank God I have someone who's a really assertive spouse who basically stuck her finger in my nose and said, "Stop, you need to take a look and breathe." And so how easy it is that sometimes we're thinking, well, as long as I'm hyper functional and productive and everything's going well, I'm fine, can sometimes trip you up very easily. It's not just I'm falling apart. It's just, no, you're avoiding talking about or engaging in dealing. And it wasn't until I got online with literally a bunch of other psychologists from around the country and started to talk about how hard they are. It was, and how tired and exhausted we were. And when all the violence started happening and how frightened and scared we were, that we finally started seeing people, these are all licensed psychologists, starting to cry and weep online and finally admitting that I am tired and I am angry and I am pissed. And the interesting thing is, towards the end, people started singing to each other because it felt like this is the only time I felt it was safe to be able to say that. And these are a bunch of mental health professionals. So yeah, sometimes we got to wake up and listen as well. And how easy it is to get too hyper-functional and not really take care of yourself. And it took that peer interaction and connection to finally get us to say, whoa, okay, I need to take care of myself too.
And that's exactly the feeling I had. I was working 7 days a week, and we always think that Zoom made it easier, but I think it was the opposite for me. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 meetings a day because you have to plan. At least when I'm in the district, you have to plan travel time. Half hour to get to your destination, 20 minutes to go to the other destination. But because we were doing Zoom, I clocked one day I did 9 hours straight of Zooming, just sitting down in my chair, going from talking to teachers, to the superintendents, to elected officials. I just kept going. The fact that I didn't have to go anywhere and that I could do business sitting down, just staring at our computer, our Zooms, did not help, because it made it very easy, like the doctor said, to just become hyperfunctional, and you just kept going. And so, yes, it took, for me to say, stop and you need to take a little bit of a breather and understand that I'm also human. And even though I wanted to solve everyone else's problems, we have personal lives too. And so I ended up figuring it out. So, but I want to thank the doctor for sharing that personal experience, because he's a doctor. Clearly, I'm a state senator, so it doesn't matter who you are. These issues happen to anyone and everyone. So it's okay, especially our students. So, okay, I am going to have time probably for one more question. This has been really great and engaging. So thank you to our students, but I'm going to open it up for any other question you might have. Okay. No other questions. So I wanted to. I'm sorry. I missed that. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say again, thank you for such detailed responses. It's a pretty open-ended question, but earlier I know that Dr. Masuda asked that you said that asking people if they have someone to go to is a good way to gauge whether or not they have the necessary help or aid to help them. But for the people who say, I don't know, or I have nobody, is there a way that they can go about trying to figure out who can they talk to? Is there like any tips they can do to kind of figure this out in hopes that perhaps to even prevent this from happening in the future, they have someone to talk to?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wise question. I think again, if we provide that connectedness, and again, going back to the permission to speak freely, is even sometimes throwing in a little bit of a doubt or a little bit of a suggestion or a little bit of a, hey, you could try this, or this is cool, or I've done this or that. It's sometimes I'll get the kind of questions, it's, how do I know if I'm okay or not? And I will often address this because I get that a lot. Students come in, I'm fine, I'm cool, just sign the paper, let me get out of here. And that's all they really want. So I'll sort of sit there and I think, well, have you thought about, do you know if you have any allies and backup and support? Do you see everything where, you know how you get people, it's all good, and that could be a statement of everything's fine, or it could be the person's generalizing too much and avoiding anything and everything. Because then if it's all bad, I can't handle it. Do you sometimes feel like you've got no choices and nowhere to go? Is that what's happening to you? Or do you feel like you need to escape and you can't? Or I'll even ask them, I don't know how you feel about me, but do you feel like you can't trust anybody? And so the more I get the sense of somebody being so disconnected and I can do this on my own, the more I'll kind of look at them and go, okay, yeah, I'm glad you're really strong, man, but don't be stubborn. I mean, you're still human. And that same kind of permission giving, not criticizing, because this is an individual who thinks, I don't need anybody, I don't want anybody, I can handle it all on my own. Oftentimes there's not somebody who feels comfortable trusting, or they've been burned in the past. And you're kind of asking a lot to somebody like that to say, could you try with me? Or just try again. And what can I do to help you trust me? Just as a friend, just as a colleague, just as someone who cares about you, and not I'm going to fix you or you need fixing, but more, no, that's cool. Is that, and I keep going back to that same permission to speak freely, and it's that permission giving. I'll go ahead and say this, men are particularly bad at this, and women are stronger in this one arena, where if I have a young man sit there and he starts crying about a major loss in his life, I have to be quick to tell him, thank you for sharing that and telling me how much you love the mother you just lost to cancer. And it's an interesting permission to cry for that kind of a heavy loss, because if I don't say something, that same person is going to feel humiliated and embarrassed that he cried in front of a stranger, even though I can't even imagine what that loss must have been like. So again, it's sort of that really human connected permission giving that is so powerful. It can be so helpful. And whether it's in working on any anti-bullying campaign or doing diversity competency or addressing vulnerable populations in your leadership roles, understand that you are actually focusing on some of the mental health issues and giving that same permission. So I hope that helps.
Well, Dr. Masuda, just your presence here and sharing not only your personal story, but how we can help is really valuable. So thank you so very much for joining us here today. We unfortunately are out of time, but I really just want to take a moment to commend our youth leaders here today, just for being leaders in your community, really trying to step up, see where the issues are, where the problems are, and trying to figure out solutions. What you've done with the work and the survey is incredible. And I cannot, thank you enough for doing that. And I hope that you inspire the next, youth coming behind you. It's very necessary that our youth takes an active role in this issue. And sometimes it's important when students hear it from their peers. Sometimes they feel a little reluctant to listen to adults, but peer-to-peer is always important. And just stopping to ask someone if they're okay is something as simple as that can bring someone to want to speak to you. So always ask, are you okay? If you see anyone distressed, don't assume they're just having a bad day. Really do stop by and say, can I help you? Is everything okay? So, but again, I'm so impressed. I am so incredibly impressed with your work, your dedication. And so again, thank you to Temple City Youth Committee for wanting to collaborate with me. And, as a teacher, I can say that it feels like I'm back in the classroom, just having a discussion with such brilliant minds here. And your work is always going to be, leave a legacy for the next generation. So keep up the good work, keep up with what you're doing. I want to take a moment to also thank not only my staff, but the Senate Democratic Caucus here for putting this together. And lastly, I know that resources are needed. And so please, go on our website, my website, or on the screen. You'll find some numbers that you can reach out to. Talk to your teachers, talk to your counselors, talk to your principal, whoever you can find. If you do not feel comfortable at home, there's always someone in school willing to help out. So again, I'm so honored to have been here with such talented young individuals. Dr. Masuda, thank you for the work that you do. And this concludes our webinar. So thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful evening tonight. Enjoy. Thank you.